I just want to call the meeting of the Open Space and Stewardship and Policy Work Group to order for May 3rd. I'm Marjorie Winters. We have Susan Messina. We have Karen, last name, I'm blanking. Gordon, and Wendy Masukas and Tom Taberski. The adoption of the March 1st, 2023 minutes. Do we have any comments on them? Didn't have any, so we'll just file them as they are. The second item is without objections. The second item is Homegrown National Park co-branding update. And I know, Susan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I did talk to the partner with Doug Ptolemy, and she said that she's not charging the town. I am trying to find out a little bit more information about like what it means to be on their website versus co-branding and all that. So honestly, my recommendation is we just think about this a little bit more. I'm really aligned with their principles, but I'm just trying to make sure we kind of understand the whole thing now that we're not in any rush. That would be my recommendation. I was waiting to hear back from a couple more people.
Okay. So you want to take it off the next week's agenda for the Board of Selectmen and kick it back one more? We can.
Kind of. Is that all right?
Yeah, I'm sure Wendy would. Wendy's right here. I'm sure Wendy would appreciate that. They'd rather have all their information and all the ducks in a row before it's discussed again.
Yeah, I would too.
Okay. I'll have.
Oh, can I just add something? My only addition was I still asked if it had been fully vetted by our town attorney, and I didn't get a total answer on that. So I have no problem pushing it out as long as you guys don't, because I'm still a little, uneven about it.
All right.
Yeah, let's just get all of our information so everyone can feel comfortable about it.
And then,
Susan, I have a question. Sorry, Marjorie, did you want to say something?
No, go on.
So as you know, I'm so into what they're trying to do and believe in the organization that if, as you're gathering more information, there would be an opportunity for a Zoom discussion. I would love to learn more, have my name and face as you know, made familiar to them, because I'm so glad that we're thinking about co-branding. So if there's an opportunity for me to learn more, I'd be happy to do it. And then maybe I can be of more help as we go forward.
And it does tie in beautifully with the pollinator pathway aspect that the town has already adopted. One of the things I would love to see is if we could send, I will try to get a link for one of the Doug Talamay's talks, because he's such an excellent speaker, and I think it would serve the Board of Selectmen well if they could watch one of these talks. It would bring them right up to speed.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Susan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, sorry. We had talked last time, or this came up at some point, about doing a kind of a like a public education session that combined dark sky education with the pollinator pathway thing, which are both under the umbrella of Homegrown National Park. And I know that Avon is thinking about having Doug Talamy or something like that. So maybe we could do like a regional thing. I mean, it might just be a Zoom, but you know, we could maybe do some, or it could be hybrid. I don't know. But I'd really like to tie together these two things because they're really related and both important to get out there and have people understand how they're connected.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea, especially if they are doing it by Zoom. It would be really lovely to get that link out to the public.
Mm-hmm. And is the possibility of doing something with them in conjunction with Avon as that comes closer. If I can be of help with getting the Simsbury Library to coordinate, I'm really close with the program director there. Okay. And Chris. And so if I could be of help at that point, please let me know. That's exciting.
Perfect. All right. We'll put that on the agenda to keep that in the radar.
Good.
All right. And Susan, if you find out when the talk is, let me know. Because it would be good to get up on all sorts of websites. Right. And encourage everyone to watch. He's an excellent speaker. All right, anything more on Homegrown National Park? Okay, Belden Forest and Hemlocks. Susan, I think you had something to say on that one.
Yeah, I don't know if Tom wanted to open the topic with the email that we got, or I could do it, whatever makes sense.
Go ahead. You're more literate about it than I am, probably.
Sure. Wild and Scenic Group, Lower Farmington River group wrote in, have, grants that they every year. For example, this is out for invasive removal, for example. One of the things that they're funding this year is biocontrol beetle release for beetles that eat the hemlock woolly adelgid. So everyone knows that there's this woolly adelgid. It's been around for quite a long time. It attacks hemlocks. It can kill them. And so they're releasing a number of colonies in the area on Stratton Brook, on some private land. I'm not sure where else, but they asked about if we want to have them released in Belden. And so I did reach out to a few people because I've been in Belden a bunch of times and also some other areas. And there's some areas where the hemlocks don't really look that bad. So I wasn't in a rush to release beetles right away. So to be honest, I wanted to get a little bit more information on that too. I did find out that the colonies are, just a few $100s each. So it's not like a huge, expense if we, need to use open space money or get a donation or whatever, if we want to do it. But at some level, I mean, I think, they found that with the ash trees, there are a bunch of ash trees that are surviving the emerald ash borer. So, I think we need to, have some areas where natural processes sort of work things out. So I'm not totally against the beetle release, but I just, once again, didn't want to rush into that either, especially since the cost is very low. So that's my research on that. And I did go to, the other part of the email was that the person who releases the beetles, Carol Che, I think is her last name. She did, I'm not sure if she did this, but Amy Petrus from Farmington River Watershed Association reported that 86% of the hemlocks in Stratton Brook died. And one follow-up question that I want to ask is, what is that 86% of? Because I've been over in Stratton Brook and I see a whole bunch of healthy hemlocks there too. So I wasn't sure if it was just in one area or anyway, I just wanted to ask a little bit more information. So I thought I would maybe collect any questions that you guys had in this meeting and we could just ask all those questions at the same time.
I have a dumb, naive question, and I'm very into thinking about it, but hear of humans doing something that ends up down the road being invasive or not being a good thing. And so I'm sure, since you're involved, you know that these are totally safe. Can you tell me, are they native predators of this, tree eating thing? I mean, what are they? Just 25 words on that.
It's a beetle, and I think they are a native predator to where the woolly adelgid comes from. And around here, they can only eat the adelgid, and then they die after they don't have any adelgids. So they have been, studying these beetle biocontrol methods for, a few decades now, like over 20 years. I guess my point is that that's even still a short time in forest life and tree life. And if I went into I've been going in the Ethelwalker Woods very consistently for, almost 20 years now, and I don't really see a real escalation of a problem there. And I don't really see a big problem in Belden. So I'm just thinking it's not an emergency. Like I said, I'm not against it, but that's my opinion about it.
And it might be very site specific. They are a monophagous insect, so they only eat woolly adelgid. So the woolly adelgid came over from like Japan or something like that. They did come over to the West Coast back in the I think in the 1900s and decimated the hemlocks there. But as Susan said, the trees did. The ones that survived were more resistant to those things. And now, so they're there, but there's sort of a stasis, they can coexist at the moment. The last winter was mild, so I would imagine there would be more woolly adelgid this year. But when we had that really cold spell a few years ago, maybe a decade ago, it really knocked back the woolly adelgids. Of course, the ones that survived were either in a lovely little microhabitat or they were adapted. They adapted to the cold. So the ones that will be offspring will be ones more adapted to the cold.
Mm. Thanks, Marjorie. I love that word, monophagic. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
This is why I didn't talk about it, because I don't know these big words.
but in the Simsbury Land Trust, I know over at Lucy Brook over at Tanager Hill, we have a problem with the hemlocks on the steep slopes. The hemlocks are a lovely shade-loving tree, but they also love water. So on the slopes, they don't get as much, and so they're more susceptible to the hemlocks. And the worry is if we do nothing, all the hemlocks will die, and the slope will erode even more. So we are releasing, and we're hoping to release them there. So it is a site-specific thing. If the tree's happy, it can fight off a lot of things. If the tree's not in a good spot, it's more likely to succumb to an insect. So I don't know how happy they are in Belden or, Stratton Brook, but, they aren't happy in the ravine at Lucy Brook. So we're going to, I know the state has been releasing these for quite some years. I don't know about the success rate of these things. That's another matter. So, we could do more research on it, but they will be in the environment. I know, they will be releasing Simsbury for other sites.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so we can get more information on that too. But I think right now we're just putting them in the spots where the hemlocks are in most peril. We'll see if it even works. Anything else?
So did anyone have any other questions for me to add to the questions I wanted to ask Dr. Carol Cheadle? Because I'm going to ask her, where is that area in Stratton Brook? Because I wanted to check out the area where the mortality was.
Yeah.
I didn't know if anybody else had any other questions.
And ask if it's,
if Belden Forest, correct?
And well, they're going to be releasing in Stratton Brook, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going to be released in Stratton Brook. She hasn't been to Belden. That's
Oh,
why
okay.
I don't think she's really assessed Belden, and she maybe doesn't know that they're not looking bad. So I wanted to see where's the area in Stratton Brook.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know the
and the timeline too, like what's the timeline they've been studying it there or whatever.
And how much success they've had with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Have some homework.
All right. Thank you, Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Trap Rock Ridgeline Protection. Anything?
I just didn't want to lose track of this. Is this something, because I can, now that today was my last day of classes, I just have finals now to get through. So I've just really been just so flat out. But I just didn't want to drop the ball on this because I think we said we were going to bring it up with zoning, and zoning's been a little busy. So is that true? I just want to remember what the next step was supposed to be. That was my thing.
Is this something in POCD that I think it was in POCD and zoning is supposed to do something, but
that's what I thought. Aaron had said that they were discussing it as part of the POCD discussions when we last had her on. I thought.
Oh, that's right. I think you're right. Okay, let's bring it up we can bring it up, if not before, then, we can send a letter as part of the comment process for the POCD.
and I think, yeah, let me. Excuse me, sorry.
Bless you.
Bless you.
All right,
Yeah.
sorry. All right.
I have a question on that. If
Keep going, I'll just sneeze here.
Well, Marjorie's sneezing. So it is strictly a zoning would have to do something to protect the ridge from any development or anything like that. That's what I read, and that's what you guys are saying here, correct? Okay.
I guess that's what I was asking about. Would it be asking zoning to pass the enabling legislation? That's what you're saying, Wendy?
Yeah, because I just was looking it up because when I think about it, I remember talking about seeing who could bring it up or do something about it. And I don't know how old, I think it's pretty old, but one of the statutes was a zoning ordinance of some sort would have to do something to protect the ridge line.
Yeah.
And then one other
you know
thing,
what? I guess it's not either or. We can still talk about it in the POCD and send it to
Right.
zoning.
right.
Okay.
One thing I did find when I was just looking, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, and I lost it. But let me see, the land trust, the East Granby, West Hartford and Bloomfield Land Trust did an alliance to do something about Trap Rock Ridge. Marjorie, you know about that? You're on
Can't hear
mute.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's economically very hard to be a land trust, a small land trust, and get everything done. So what they've done, the West Hartford, the East Granby and Bloomfield have joined,
Okay.
make a bigger land trust, and they're calling themselves the Trap Rock Ridge Land Trust. So
Okay.
I don't know that they're doing anything about land trust, but they're working together as land trusts that are around the Trap Rock Ridge.
I see.
So what we can do, I mean, I think to help zoning is look and see what other towns are doing for their, how they've enacted Trap Rock Ridge protections. And if we can get the language that they're using, we could forward that on to zoning, and that might speed things up if we do a little bit of the legwork for them. Susan?
I don't think there's any legwork. It's all
You
written
say
in the
yes?
statute.
Oh, all
Yeah, we
right.
just have to adopt that we're enabling
okay.
this statute to apply to Simsbury. And it was when it was written, it only included certain Trap Rock ridges.
All right.
And ours are all included. It was like almost written for just specific ridges, and we just never finalized it.
And the interesting thing, Simsbury has more Trap Rock ridges than any other town, so
I
it would
know.
seem logical for us to do that.
Yeah, it just
More so
kind
than
of, I
other
think it
towns.
just slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, so, all right, so we just need to write a letter to zoning to say, please enact this.
Yeah, and what I'd like to do, and I know now that my classes are over, is I want to get some of that information on the open space website too, because I think a lot of people really don't even know what a Trap Rock Ridge is. So I feel like we should if we provide a letter, we should provide some education at the same time about it.
So I just happened to write some signs for Simsbury Land Trust for the property on 60 West Ledge. So I could send you that information on what, just to use it and you can change it.
Perfect.
But
Perfect. That might be a good little blurb for the website. And I
Yeah.
think you should link to some of your articles you've written for the land trust, Marjorie. I really want to tackle the mission. People can easily access. And if we were able to get an intern, it would be really easy to kind of feed that person, the chunks of information and have them sort of put it together, get our documents together, or, some of the surveys we've had and stuff like that. Anyway, that's a separate topic, but that's my dream. And the
All right,
Trap
so-
Rock Ridge is part of it.
So we already have that written up.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. And then the ecological study.
I don't think anything's happening with that because I don't think it's in the budget and I don't think we have a plan for it, although I have people who can do it.
Okay, and at the last meeting I brought up with the Simsbury Land Trust is using a software program called Landscape Conservation Software Program. And it's a great, we're finding it very useful. Other land trusts have found it very useful, but other towns have also found it. And what it is, it's a great database for all the information. It puts it in one place that's easily accessible. And so anyone who's doing stewardship work on any particular property can go and find out, it's tied in with GIS, and you can find out where the work needs to be done, what the status is on it, plans for the future. It's just a great database tool for managing our properties. And I thought it might be something that the town could use. I'm still not getting in touch with them about what the price would be, but I will keep doing that. I've been a bit busy in the last month or so.
I took a quick peek at it just to when you sent it, just to get an idea of what it was, and it a free
Demo.
version, but didn't seem like you got much of that. And then it was the paid, but I didn't have time to explore what the payment was.
Yeah.
My thinking on this was the town has hired a new assistant planner. I think they're being onboarded this week or
Yes,
early
I
next.
met her last night. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I don't know if you recall last year, like this time last year is when we lost Tom Hazel,
Mhm.
when he left, and obviously the land use issues that you guys discuss quite a bit are more related to the town planner's office more than Parks and Rec, I think. So I would love to get that person. I think the intent is, I spoke to somebody in the town manager's office. The intent is that the assistant town planner would be kind of the co-liaison again, like we had before. And that person would kind of be able to review, look at it from a different lens and see, they would know more what we have the ability to do now through the town's GIS and how those two systems might mesh together better, much more than I can. I don't use the GIS that the planners use. I use the one the assessors use that is more for looking at maps and property lines and things like that, not necessarily floodways and wetlands and things like that or trap rock ridges and development zones that the planning office might be more apt to do. So
that's a good point. And maybe we can suggest it to her that it might be.
That was my thought.
And the lovely thing is, because we have had a little bit of turnover with staff, the nice thing is the database remains, even if the institutional knowledge leaves. It's an attempt to institutionalize the information.
Agreed.
Right, which also ties in sort of, I think we were going to just put on the agenda something about budgeting, see if we can get that, figure out what we're going to do for requests, getting into the budget stream for next year.
Yeah, and to that end, I believe, just from and Wendy can correct me if I'm wrong, the discussions I've heard through the Board of Finance meetings and maybe somewhat of the Board of Selectmen is that there's a hope to do some capital planning this summer. Wendy, is that correct? Or start this summer?
Yeah, that's
with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with that being said, and with the town manager's office turnover as well, we shouldn't, if there's something you're intent on putting in for a request, I shouldn't say intent. If you have a request that you'd like to make, it's better to start getting that put together sooner so that it's in the town manager's office and it's in the discussion for capital planning. If it's that large a project, if it's a smaller project, then it might be able to be worked out through the internal budget with using funds from the Meadowwood revenues that do come in annually. Most of those revenues that we did have for this past year with Meadowwood went toward the barn restoration and the barn demolition, unfortunately, for the one that was falling down. So there's really not much left in the bank, but that bank will be replenished with the leases next year.
So Tom, is that the source of funding for open space items?
So it's some of it. Yeah. I mean, that's the idea. If we were to, let's just say, for instance, we sold a property that would go in, it's supposed to be designated to go back into open space maintenance. If a tree that Meadowwood in perpetuity, as long as we keep renting the tobacco barns up in the back, and Erin's coming in, so I'm going to let her in. The tobacco barns up in the back and the farming that's going on the three properties. The two properties right now, the one on Barndore Hills Road and the one on Hoskins Road. That money goes into, let's say, a trust, or it's a revolving account that we can draw out of. To be able to fund those projects that we had to do this year, that fund was drawn down. It would be, those things are annual leases, so we get annual payments. So next year, those funds get replenished. I don't know if the tobacco barn money came in this year. I know the agricultural money came in this year. So, but that it's came and gone through the demolition and some of the restoration work, and we had to pay to remove the vegetation around the barns. I don't know if you remember that. So we had to pay an outside contractor to come in to do that. So that's gone. But in the future, that money would keep coming back in, you would think. And if we chose to rent any other properties for agricultural purposes, that money would be used for that. Now, if a tree falls in a park, let's just say a tree falls in Ethel Walker Woods over a trail we have to take out. That is money that we use from the Board of Selectmen budget for parks. There's money in there for that. It's not necessarily money. It's designated for tree maintenance or parks maintenance or a small trail project, maybe, something on the scale of less than $1,000. Anything more than that, we would normally put in as a budget line item and request it.
So Tom, how much money is in the agricultural lease and Meadowwood?
I don't believe there's anything left.
No,
Yeah,
no, but I
I
mean,
don't-
last year when you started, before you did the barn demolition.
it was somewhere between 25 and 30,000.
Okay,
That's what the agricultural payment, I believe, is like just a hair under 24,000, and the barn lease, I think, is around, and I apologize, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I think it's around 9,000 a year. So you take those, you get about 30 to 33, somewhere in there.
okay, so,
And last year was the first full year of those payments coming to the town.
So I just want to comment on what Tom said. Yes, there is a plan, because of the budget this year and looking out the next few years with the potential increase of increase after increase in mill rate potentially. The Board of Finance has asked to do like a capital planning session, which it came up a few years ago, didn't happen. I think Lisa as chair has asked for it and they've all agreed. That was also something that we talked about using our finance subcommittee for, was looking at these capital items. So not to be Debbie Downer here, but I don't think they're looking to add items to it. Like I think we have more on there. I mean, potentially, Tom, you're right. We could add new items, but I think right now there's so many items on there. I think they're looking to whittle down the priorities from last year, this year, to see where we stand before going forward. So
well, I'm not thinking of any capital project. I don't know how you know, where you categorize stewardship. I mean, we have these properties, we need to steward them. It's really more of an operating expense than a capital expense. I mean, we spend millions of dollars on building new things, but the things that we have, and we spend a lot of money on, in order to be ecologically sound, they're under threat from some of their invasive species. And the longer we wait, the more expensive it will get. Otherwise, to maintain them. But how, we need somehow to get somewhere, and I'm not sure where in the budget it needs to go, but we do need to figure out some plan for this invasive plant removal, because 25 years ago, there was hardly a problem. Now there's a problem. 25 years from now, I'd hate to think of what's going to be there.
Yeah, and this is where and Susan, give me 1 second. This is where that service improvement form goes the sooner.
Yeah,
To get in addition to the town managers or board of selectmen's budget, you present that service improvement with the rationale why it has to be done, and you just basically kind of said why it needs to be done.
Yeah.
That's a great, just capsulate that with a cost, and then that's what goes in for consideration into the board of selectmen takes those things. They have a pile of them, and they rate or rank. I mean, I'm sure Wendy can speak to that better than I can, but my assumption is they rank those service improvements as the ones that they feel most strongly about, or the ones they hear about, and they decide to move those into the budget. They don't, when we turn in an operating budget, typically it's the things that happen like what you're kind of saying, year to year, with the minor increases for cost and utilities and things like that. When you want to add something of any significance, I'm not talking about a box of pencils, but an ecological study or a trail build or whatever, that would be a service improvement form. Generally, I think those are over a couple $1,000 increase, and then that's how those things get into those things are supposed. My understanding how they're supposed to get into the budget.
Okay.
Right? Is that pretty much it, Wendy?
Yeah, well, I was thinking more of like a CNR project, like the biodiversity or the what we did for Town Forest Pond, like a $45,000 hit. But if you're talking ongoing, that wasn't
right. They're talking about stewardship, which is, I mean, granted, there could be a special project here or there that would follow under CNR, but if you're talking about a general a few $1,000s a year spend for stewardship in whatever capacity it is, I think that falls under service improvement. A bigger project, again, what Wendy mentioned, biodiversity study or whatever, or the dredging at Town Forest Park, that's a CM. And again, there's a CM form. It's very similar to the service improvement form, but that's how those. Not everyone gets accepted every single year. It depends. It's on the merits of the project. It's money available. All of that factor into it. But what I was kind of saying before is let's use summertime to get those things squared away so that there's plenty of time for that to get to, everybody here that's involved with open space. It's been vetted. It's got the wording and the language you want on it. And you can start to get the machinations or the momentum behind it going into budget season. So it's just not, there's some history with it.
Just what does CNR stand for?
A capital non-reoccurring. So it's a one,
Okay.
like the dredging at Town Forest Park is capital non-reoccurring. It's an expense under $250,000. Anything over 250 is considered capital. Generally, it's a one-time expense, whether it's building a parking lot or Town Forest Pond. It's not an ongoing expense. An ongoing expense would be agricultural supplies for field maintenance or something like that. That's an ongoing expense. Staffing would be an ongoing expense.
Okay.
Special projects would be CNR or service, or maybe an ongoing, a small ongoing expense would be a service improvement form. Even a staff person. If we were to ask for a staff person, that first comes in as a service improvement, like a parks maintainer comes in as a service improvement. That's considered and then moved into the operating budget.
Okay. Right, good. Thank you.
Go
See,
ahead,
I
Susan.
know
I'm
about
sorry.
monophagus, but I don't know about CNR. So, there we are.
Okay. Okay, so I just want to like kind of encapsulate what I think how we could move this forward, because what you just said, Tom, is that we could, because we really need an ongoing allocation for stewardship, but you're saying we can put that in the budget via a service improvement form. And I think if we have some kind of ongoing allocation and we can pick something that's like, what do we think it would be during a small year, right? And that could be like initially getting a strategic plan and starting to chip away at the invasives. And then if we needed in like a little intern, could that fit in? Let's say we budgeted $10,000. Could we use that like for a consultant for part of it, for an intern, and then a little bit of invasive work for the other part? Is that legit? If it was under stewardship, and then like the next year, maybe we need the stewardship for like some other, a way to know that we have some kind of money coming in. And if there's extraordinary stuff, we can file other forms for that.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. Now, I'm not speaking for the Board of Selectmen. They're the ones in the town, and whoever the town manager is, those would be the people who evaluate the merits of those forms. If you leave it so open-ended that they're not sure how the money's going to be spent, my thinking is that maybe, my in whatever expertise it is the more laser focused that service improvement form is to exactly what the cost is going to cover. I think it lends itself well to being accepted, because you educated them and why this is important. If you're kind of buckshotting it a little bit, to me, which you're welcome to do, and we can see how it goes, but Wendy could probably give her 2 cents on what her first reaction might be if she saw something like that. If you buckshot it a lot, it doesn't seem like there's as much focus, and they're not, if they're allotting dollars and cents here, do they like the unknown that, okay, they're going to assume that if you put in this request and you're saying it's going to be every year, now they've increased their annual budget $10,000, and they're really maybe not sure exactly what they're getting. Whereas if you had kept it something narrow, whether it's a one-time expense or a small ongoing expense, let's just say, I'm just going to throw tree maintenance out there. If it's just tree maintenance or invasive species, that's a better one. Invasive species education for 5 years at $2,000, $3,000 a year. You've defined what the problem is. You're defining on how you're going to attack it with the funds, rather than saying the open space committee. And I'm not trying to offend or not trying to take down what you said, but if you put a $10,000 request in and just saying the open space committee is going to use this to better open space in Simsbury, that's somewhat vague, and it might not be evaluated highly.
So I already wrote, and maybe I could next meeting, and we could see events to like combine a couple onto one, and if they're specific enough or whatever, maybe we can just start chipping this away. So we'll have it finalized within a few months and get it ready.
That'd be great.
Okay.
All right.
Wendy, do you want to add anything to that, or did I?
No, I totally see what you're saying, because I was just going to give the example. First of all, I don't always know how a committee gets a fund, an annual fund, and how some don't. I still don't understand that. But you could use the example this year, the DEI committee commission came in for more money, and they specifically said it was for Juneteenth for their expenses for that. And when we know people tried to get more money for more of a vague thing, we didn't like that. So if you just came in and said, we need $2,000 a year for this, then it's much easier to do that.
Yeah.
good grant
Does that
writing.
help?
Specific.
Does that help? Does that help you
Yeah.
guys?
Yep. All right. All right, meeting calendar.
So
Did
I
we-
have a copy of the calendar. I made sure I got one. So
Yeah.
I was ready for whatever discussion you may want to have on this. I'm not sure where this was going. So you
No,
just-
I was not, I'm not sure. We have the dates already set up when we voted on them or whatever, or,
we do. What I vaguely remember of the last open space committee meeting, and I can't remember if it was Helen who suggested it or not, is that maybe it's changed up so the open space committee whole committee meets more often than 4 times a year. I recall that was brought up, but I don't remember exactly who said
we
it.
also didn't want to meet on things like holidays.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
That
Yes,
was-
holiday.
Yeah, we didn't want to meet on certain days that were problematic.
Yep.
Not everyone could come.
Yep.
I think that's what we were going to review, that so that we, people wouldn't,
Yeah.
have to miss a meeting.
And whether that it was in person or Zoom.
Yeah. And I thought we were going to do the work groups by
Zoom
Zoom and the full meetings in person.
in person. Okay, that's,
So we could
that's what I
specify
would-
that on the calendar and,
for whatever reason, I couldn't open the Zoom link. It wasn't working. It was, I don't know what was going on. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
so frustrating, but.
So just taking a quick look at the dates. I don't see any dates that fall on holidays. Just on the quick review, I'm looking at my calendar here that's got all the holidays marked on it. That part seems fine for the rest of this calendar year. The other, was it a time change for the whole group meetings that needed? Because I know, remember Aaron mentioned that.
yeah, I think
go ahead.
if I'm not mistaken, we talked at the big meeting that July 5th might be a little dicey because it was after the 4th of July weekend. So it doesn't fall on the holiday, but so I don't know if people, I know, like, for instance, I'm not available, but that doesn't matter. But I think, Marjorie, that's what we were talking about
I think so, yeah.
on holidays, is because it's right after and
Yeah.
town staff could be on vacation. So
Yeah.
that was the one meeting that
I
we
think
kind
you're
of
absolutely right. Ed.
questioned.
Yeah. So we could postpone that one the next week. For that one.
Well, can you? Because if it's already posted, can you?
Oh, well, we could.
You have to cancel and schedule a special meeting.
Special meeting.
Yeah.
Which
But
is,
you-
I mean,
you-
you're right.
The chairs, you guys can do, or chair, Wendy can do that. It's not a problem.
Susan?
Was there a time change that anybody, I thought there was some concern about starting at 4:30 that that was important to somebody that wanted, and again, it
Well,
could
it's
be
hard
Aaron,
for
I
me
don't.
because on Wednesdays, I'm in Middletown and I work till 4:30. But today I was able to flex my time to get home. So it's just a tough time. But if it works for everybody else, I'll just continue to work around it. I just feel badly because for whatever reason, I go to the wrong place. I don't get on the Zoom call. I just feel badly because I want to be able to attend, and it just
Yeah.
is kind of a
Well, would
comedy of
5:30
errors.
would 5:30 work better?
I personal time that I can take. I'm not open space at 4:30. I don't want people to necessarily rearrange it for me if 4:30 works. If other people find it problematic, I would be open to going to 5:30, but that I don't want to, that's not fair for me to muck people up.
No, but I mean,
Well,
but if
5:30 fine with me.
Well, I'm gonna just weigh in for town staff because
Oh, that's
Wednesday, town staff doesn't work till 5:30. And is that why we do 4:30, Tom, to help you guys out?
that might be.
I don't remember exactly why we moved it to 4:30, but it is more helpful to me. I wouldn't be opposed to the larger group meetings being at a later time. But if you're going to go in person, again, it's myself and probably somebody else, and you start to run into night meetings for boards, people who are on other boards and commissions. If you start at 5:30 and don't end, I just be conscious of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate Wendy's consideration. Yeah, I typically I'm out of here at 4:30. If it's a 5:30, I'm trying to work things around my calendar during the week. So
What if we do 4:30 for the work group and 5:30 for the in-person group? Would that be a compromise?
yes. Should we
That's 4 times.
take a look at the town calendar for other meetings that take place on Wednesday at
Yeah.
6 o'clock? 6:30 or whatever. I
And then
don't know what board.
And then maybe we could also, Tom, maybe you could send an email around and poll the other members of the open space committee and see if that works for them.
You guys, I'm gonna drop so I could get to my class.
All right.
Ooh.
Bye, Wendy.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks
Oh, I
for-
know, I have to go to tennis. I need it tonight, man. I need to, so.
So
You know
I
what,
think that's,
Marjorie, that would be helpful. If Tom, if you don't mind 4 times, and that way I can try to work and get out of work early and use my time, but for the bigger meetings
Yeah.
that happen quarterly, that would be great. That would be a nice,
Yeah,
if it works out with other town boards.
Yep. Again, if it works with the other town parts of the town calendar, and we can reserve the main meeting room for that in-person time, yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me. That's a fair compromise. I don't have any issue with it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll see how it works. Other business?
Can I just say we're starting the POCD review?
Yes.
And no, this is not necessarily open space, but Marjorie, I think Joe was going to talk to you because we want
Yes.
to put some sidebar. Did
I
you
saw
talk? to
that.
you
Yeah,
about
he
that?
talked. I
Yeah.
talked to him last night. But we had a question for you. We were talking earlier about the Trap Rock Bridge protection enabling legislation, and we're thinking it is in the POCD. I think there is Trap Rock. That it's one of those things to protect the Trap Rock bridges. I think is in the POCD.
Look, I have it right here.
I have mine too. But
No, this is the draft.
the draft. Good.
Yes, this
So-
is the draft, hot off the presses. You know
So-
what? There is something about Trap Rock in here, but if you have specific, like, is there something specifically, or what we're doing too is we're putting hyperlinks in here. So if
Good.
there's legislation, send it to me and I can bring it. We're having another workshop next week.
Okay, Susan, do you have the link to the Trap Rock Bridge enabling legislation, or do you want me to, I can find it?
you mean the link?
Yeah, there should be something on the state website about Trap Rock. Bridge.
Yeah, it's been in our agendas and stuff like that too. Yeah, we have to,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, I just wanted to
Oh.
mention that if we're gonna change our meetings to 5:30, we have to cancel and reschedule the main meetings.
Oh.
We just can't, that's fine. It's no big deal, but it's just like a legal mechanism that we need to do that, I think, and send out a notice a couple of days earlier. It's not a big deal at all. I just don't want to forget to do it because
No, but you know
really
what?
persnickety.
Then why don't we do that? And so I propose, why don't we just do this the rest of the year? If I know in my
And then
head.
we can change it next year.
And then we can
Yeah.
change it next year. Is
Okay.
that okay? I don't-
Yeah, that's
because
perfect. And then the
it's
other
just
thing is,
Work people don't need to do.
yeah.
You
Okay, that's a good idea. And then next, and I don't want to make town staff work more evenings than they already do.
Right.
The other thing is I can't do it. I mean, I know July 5th isn't a good day, but I can't do it July 12th. I have a work commitment. So I just wanted to nix that day
Right.
also. Maybe we can even take a month off. You never know. Is that a big meeting or a work group?
Yeah,
meeting?
that's a big meeting.
Oh, okay.
Can you do it on the 5th?
I could. No, I don't know if I
Oh.
can do it in person though. That's the thing.
Oh,
Could we do it by Zoom? Because
Maybe
if
we could do it by
away,
Zoom.
We could
Yeah,
do that one by Zoom, because if people are away, then they can.
Yeah.
yeah,
So-
we can just have a short meeting by Zoom.
Right.
That sounds good.
All right.
I'll be in New York. I won't be able to do it by Zoom, but again, I think you guys, then keep it, then you don't even have to, I don't want to, I'm mucking things up here, people. All
But
right,
in a good way. So we'll send you the Trap Rock Bridge enabling legislation link. We were discussing that Simsbury, of all the towns that have Trap Rock bridges, has the most Trap Rock Bridge.
there is something in here, but I
Yeah, I
don't know
know.
if I've gotten to it yet. And
Yeah,
I'd have to go back because I haven't reviewed the entire document.
but I think we were thinking that zoning just has to adopt it.
Oh, okay.
It's already enabling legislation, so it's so.
Oh, land use. Oh, no, I might, yeah, send it to me. We're having another workshop Tuesday and I can pass that along to Glenn and, you know, to make sure to see if there's a way, but there is some mention. You're absolutely right. I just can't find it right
I
now.
can't. I don't-
Yeah, Aaron, here's the path. Zoning would pass the enabling legislation, but we also want to get language. The what zoning would pass is a very, very thin strip would be protected. What we want in the POCD is a description about what Trap Rock Ridge is and that they're important and we want to protect them.
Oh,
Zoning would
and
be
that
the
could
legal
be-
thing. You would be the like more conceptual.
Yes, and we could even maybe do a sidebar. I mean, there's things that we can do to say
Perfect.
what trap, exactly, that
Perfect.
absolutely
Okay,
can get in,
perfect.
yes.
Yeah,
So whatever you have, whatever you want to get in, send, and we can bring that. We're spending all month, you know, going through the
Okay.
document and updating. And then there's going to be a public hearing as well, but yeah, let's try to get it in there for the draft.
perfect.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everybody.
All right, anything else? Any other business anyone wants to?
All right,
Good.
Hey, Susan,
I've got to go. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you, Erin.
Susan,
Yeah.
are you still there?
Yeah.
Are you running off to Avon to do your presentation? Is that tonight on invasives?
Me?
Yeah. I just saw something somewhere that said tonight she's doing a presentation on invasives, and that may have been a reference to another night. I don't know where I read that. So obviously you're not doing it tonight.
Well, I hope not. I did do one in Avon a few months ago.
Okay,
This-
that's
I
what
mean,
it
it
was.
wouldn't be the first time that I've just like gotten someplace by the
No,
skin
no,
of
no,
my
no.
teeth. Trust
Well,
me on
then-
that. No, but I am going to write them about doing a joint thing on the
Yeah.
pollinator and light pollution issue.
Good.
So
Can I-
maybe if I write her, she'll say, hey, see you tonight. And then I can
No,
start.
no, no,
panicking.
that was old. But by the way, can I call you? I have a question about Trinity. Would you have a minute if I phone you right now?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. All right, so do you have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. All in
Second.
favor? I love these three people meeting. All right. All right,
Thanks.
you're a non-voting.
Bye,
member.
everybody.